Tower from Rotodyne, take off cones, please. Rotodyne from tower, you're clear to go. Roger, Rotodyne taking off now.
Right then, let's build the Fairey Rotodyne. Decals don't look too bad, so we might be lucky with those. Now, if you've not seen it, there is a kit review. If you go into my first impressions playlist, you will see a review of this kit, which will tell you a little bit about her backstory, what it was, how she came about, what her purpose was, and a look through all of these parts. Right now, we're going to start building it. So my first step is just to check through the paints that Airfix have listed, and there's only 2 paints that I don't have. 22, which is the paint that's called out for the main body, which I think is gloss white, and 61, which is flesh. So we can get around both of those. So I wanted to do everything in Humbrol paints, as was originally intended with the kit, and keep it authentic, and we're going to be able to largely do that, so that's great. So the build starts with the cockpit, and that's the floor pan for the cockpit done there, so we'll just clean that up. Using an emery board, I find it's a nice tool for getting in for these cleaning jobs, nice and flat. Bit of flash that we need to get off from underneath there. I can't think of any other sanding stick that would get in between there, to be honest, so they're still one of my favourite sanding tools, an emery board. Seam line there, so we'll just take that out. Okay, that's our first part done. And for some reason, I only appear to have one pilot. It says pilots are 40 and 41. Well, that's pilot 41. We also need these seats, 37 and 38. I actually can't see 40 on there. There's 40. Seems to have broken off. We might have lost him. quite a nice looking guy, isn't he? Well, the seats are basic. There we go. That's the sink sanded out of the back. That's easier than Mr. Surfacer option. Okay, and the sink in his back will disappear when he's glued into place, so we're not going to worry about that either. Okay, that's nearly done. Need to put a little bit of definition there where the hand joins the leg. And there we go. Just separate the two legs a little bit. It'll look better. Wow. Those parts go in so well. Actually, you don't really need glue. So make sure they're pushed all the way down. That's cockpit done, ready for paint. Okay, step 2. So this will be our dashboard, and we've got a decal to put on there, which is going to sink into that ejection pin mark, so we will have to fill that one. So the moulding is well, it's okay in terms of fit, definitely, but there's a lot of shrinkage from the mould, so you've got lots of sort of sinking in the parts. Just a feature of the time, I think. Yeah, so that is okay. Let's get some Mr. Surfacer though. And this is the back section. The doorway appears to just be an opening, there's nothing to put in there. I'm guessing there would have been a door, or at least planned to be a door. We only ever built one of these, and to my knowledge the cargo stroke passenger area was never kitted out in any way. Unfortunately, the whole project got cancelled after the first prototype. They proved it could do everything it wanted, which was a heavy lift helicopter, which had the speed of a turboprop aircraft, but it was just really noisy, so no commercial buy-in, and the government didn't want to spend the money after they'd requested it for the military, so that was that. Okay, so that's actually our front face for the cockpit there. Okay, now that is supposed to pop into there. Wow, I am so impressed with the fit of these parts. Everything just holds together. It's just lovely. Really lovely. And that looks very retractable to me. Just out of interest, I've not cleaned the wheels up. Yeah, they're a little loose. And there we go. That's our cockpit assembly, all just clipped into place with the exception of the seats, which we've glued. Ready for paint. So step 3 and 4 wants us to put the glazing in the main fuselage here. I'm not quite ready for doing that just yet, so I'm just having a look at the fit of the parts, and the part fit is really good. Now what I'm interested in is all this sink. Now I've got two ways of working with the sink. I can build it like I would have done as a kid and just ignored the sink, which means we're going to preserve all of this lovely raised rivet detail. Or I can do what my gut is telling me I need to do and fill it all, but inevitably we will lose some of the rivet detail doing that. But the sink is really bad, and we've got quite a bit of seam to join seam to deal with as well. I think we are going to have to sacrifice some detail, but what we'll do is we'll go round he says, as he looks at the bottom and sees all the rivet pattern underneath. Look at that. And try and sand it in between the rivets. Okay, this is going to be an interesting job. Okay, I think I'm going to think about that and skip ahead to step 5. Okay, we have some location pins. And they are not helpful, so we will remove those. That's much better now. There we go. And then that is going to fit into there. most important part is there's nothing that fouls this and stops it from rotating. That seems okay. Now again, there's quite a bit of sink in this, but it's not going to be visible, I don't think. We'll check that in a sec. Now they will be visible, so we will have to fill those. So we're going to have to just hold this together while we glue it. So let's do that. I think we'll do just one to start with. Get it all lined up. Okay, some work to do on that. We'll let it dry for a sec. just a little lip at the end of the mould there. Okay, bit more Mr. Surfacer. just tried a little experiment, and we have managed with our glue and glaze to actually glaze this window, which means I don't have to use the heavy plastic parts that can cause us some problems. We've got clean up. It also means I can glaze this after I've painted. So the only concern I have with it is that it is slightly, this is slightly milky. I ignore the bubble, that was me just dolloping it in and not finishing the job properly. So I am going to just give it a touch of clear varnish and see if that improves the look or not. And just for good measure, put some on the back as well. Let's see what happens. Fit of these parts is superb. You just put these two together, they're perfectly aligned. I mean, you heard that click, perfectly aligned. A little bit of clean up of the seams, but I actually can't get it apart again. There we go. That is really nice, such good fit. Right, we can get these glued together now. And while that's drying, I'm going to just finish the clean up on this. So this is one I've glued together already. So we just need to finish the sanding on this. Just want to get rid of any witness that there was a join there. Okay, that is all good. Let's test fit that now. Okay, now when I first test fitted this, the fit was too tight. This was oversized, so we just sanded these down, and that does now fit. You can see we're going to have a little gap. Shouldn't be too bad though. Okay, clean up of our fuselage halves. There's not too much to do. There's a little bit of a join lip there, but we'll wait till we join the two halves to do that. And the same with the sink. We'll deal with that when the two halves are together. But we can deal with some of the flash in the windows at this point. So just find the right tool for that job. I think that one. Most of the windows are okay in fairness. It's just a little bit on a couple of them in the middle there. Actually, you can see it's misshapen more easily from the back. Now we do have some ejector pin marks on the inside, and really they're not that visible. Once it's painted up, they won't be that visible. However, this particular one that's raised, it is more visible because
it's right next to the window frame, and if you're looking at that angle, you will see it. So just going to get a chisel and sort that and just whip that off. Go do that one as we've got the chisel out, just for fun. There we go. Now there is a big one here. It's not going to be visible, so I'm going to just leave it. Okay, just sort out these edges and seams while we've got the emery board out. We might as well do it that way. So this part does need quite a bit of work to get all the seams off, get things level, but it is worth it because that looks pretty good now. So let's just retest everything. There we go. That looks okay, doesn't it? So that fits into there like that. Leave the top off, and then when we put the two halves together, oh. Let's try that again, shall we? What I'm trying to understand is how sloppy it is. And I think the answer is it's a little sloppy. So we're probably best gluing all of that in so it's all nice and tight and sits the way we want it to. But before we do that, we need to, well actually, if we glue the shaft in, because that gets clamped quite tightly really. If we glue the shaft in, we can then paint this and then paint that separately and put it on as a separate item. There you go, that's the plan. So we have this bulkhead and that just slides into place there, and the suggestion is that you build up the front bit first and you put all of this in with the pilets in place and what have you. But actually, I think we can get away with not doing that. I think we can put that bulkhead in, which we've not got right. Like so, which allows us to then fill the gaps and stuff before we paint. And then afterwards, I think we can fit this in as a separate item. It's a little fiddly, but there you go. Definitely doable. Because we're gluing up to that point and then there's a bit of flex left in it then. So it will go in. So what we'll do is we'll paint this, glue it together, and then paint the outside bit after we've built up the wings and other bits so that we can do any filling. So yeah, I think that's definitely the plan. So our dashboard has been filled and it's been left 24 hours to dry. So I'm just going to gently level that. Now, there's a decal going on here, so it doesn't need to be dead pretty. Just needs to be flat. There you go, that will do. So that's our Mr. Surfacer job done for that one. And then when we've painted it, that'll go into there. It's a little loose, but it will do the job nicely. I'm going to clean up this other upper wing part now, and then we can move on to looking at the tail part. I want to put a little bit more definition in to these flaps where we've just been sanding. Find a razor saw is ideal for that job. There we go. I've done a very good job of that though. That's better. And a little dab of liquid poly will just clean the joint up. Step 9 and step 10 deal with the tail. So we've got two halves of the tail. It's quite a complex little build-up. So this is the parts for step 10. Now, when you look at the how this gets installed, there's a little plastic rod that connects here as well. I'm probably going to replace that with brass, I would think, but we'll have a look a bit nearer the time in the next step. So basically we've got two halves to go together here, two halves to go together here. That then attaches into that. Those two halves go together, and then that goes between that and the aircraft fuselage. One of those goes underneath and one of those goes on top, as you can see in the picture. So let's clean these up and see what the fit's like. There's quite a bit of lumpy mould on this, so we just need to make sure this is nice and smooth on this side. There we go, and then
little bit of flash sealing up this hole here, so just take that out. It's going to fit okay now. I'm just interested to see if these pins fit in the holes or not, or whether we need to remove them. Quite often find removing pins helps fit, but not in this case. Look at that. Continues to impress me, this kit. For its age, the fit is fantastic. There we go. So that can just be glued, and then we can clean up all the edges afterwards, and that should look fine and no risk to detail, as I can see. So that's all good, that first part. Mainly the seam line on this one, and as I've got my knife to hand, we'll use that method for seam removal. There we go. Go in with my 1000 grit just to finish that off. Okay. Now none of this will be visible, but we'll just clean it up to make sure it's not hindering fit in any way. So if you don't have any seam scraping tools and what have you, back of a knife is just as good. It's what most of us used for many years before we spent money on things, on tools, because we like tools. I collect tools like I collect model kits. I collect a lot of model kits. Shh, don't tell anyone. Okay. Bit of seam here on the front as well. There we go, that's all good. So that has to sit in there like that. Yeah, that's going to be okay. 2 parts down. Now this is the main body, everything else hangs off, so you can see we've got a little bit of sink there. We'll have to deal with that. Another perfect fit. That's supposed to be like that. This part goes in there like so.